For a long time, extroverts have dominated social spaces. Talkative, quick-witted, adaptable to any environment. But what about those who prefer to observe in silence, capturing nuances that others overlook? Intuitive introverts are masters at reading the unseen. They sense what isn't said, perceive subtle patterns, and understand the world in a unique way. Carl Jung was one of the first to study this psychological type and revealed something essential. They don't just live in the concrete world, but also in the realm of possibilities and hidden meanings. However, this extraordinary sensitivity comes with challenges. The struggle to express themselves, the feeling of isolation, and the constant sense of being misunderstood are all part of their journey. But what if there were a way to turn this intuition into a real advantage? In this video, you'll discover what makes intuitive introverts so special, the obstacles they face, and how they can use their perception to build authentic connections and gain a clearer vision of the future. If you've ever had the impression that you see beyond the obvious, you may be about to understand your true uniqueness. The complexity of the intuitive introvert. While most people focus on what's right in front of them, the intuitive introvert perceives what hasn't been said. They notice subtle shifts in tone, expressions that contradict words, and hidden intentions behind superficial conversations. This ability, though powerful, can be a challenge. When they try to share their insights, they're often met with doubtful looks or dismissive comments like, "You're imagining things." Over time, they learn that it's easier to stay silent. This difficulty in expressing themselves can lead to unintentional isolation. They want to connect, but their way of thinking often finds no resonance in everyday conversations. They take part in social interactions but frequently hide what they truly perceive, as explaining their vision requires a depth that few are willing to explore. Still, the need for genuine exchange remains. To fill this gap, many intuitive introverts turn to books, psychology, philosophy, or any field that offers answers to the questions their minds are constantly formulating. Finding spaces where they can express themselves without fear becomes essential for their balance. Intuition and human relationship. The intuitive introvert has a heightened perception that functions like an always active emotional radar. They pick up on subtle nuances in their surroundings, often sensing unspoken emotions. This sensitivity allows them to understand hidden intentions and avoid problematic situations, but it can also be exhausting. In social interactions, absorbing so much information at once can lead to overload, making them seek refuge in solitude. This ability to see beyond the obvious directly affects their relationship. When they notice inconsistencies in people's behavior, they might interpret certain gestures as insincerity or superficiality. However, their impressions aren't always accurate. A dry comment or a distant look could simply be signs of a rough day. To avoid jumping to conclusions, it's essential to combine intuition with long-term observation. Finding balance is crucial. They can continue trusting their perception, but without treating it as infallible. Asking directly instead of assuming can clarify situations and strengthen genuine connections. Something as simple as "Is everything okay?" can prevent misunderstandings and turn their sensitivity into a true asset rather than a barrier in relationship. The role of psychology in understanding psychological type. Understanding the difference between introverts and extroverts goes beyond simple labels. It's essential for improving human relationship. While many believe introverts are just shy and extroverts are always sociable, the reality is far more complex. What truly distinguishes them is how they process the world and where they draw their energy. Carl Jung identified 4 essential cognitive functions: intuition, sensation, thinking, and feeling. Each one shapes how a person perceives the world and reacts to their environment. The intuitive introvert, for example, is guided by abstract patterns and future possibilities, whereas a sensory extrovert focuses on what is tangible and immediate. When these differences aren't understood, mistaken judgments arise. Because they don't express their thought processes directly, intuitive introverts can be seen as distracted or distant when, in reality, they are simply processing information on a deep level. Similarly, extroverts may be labeled as superficial by those who don't understand their need for external stimulation. More than just an academic field, psychology is a practical tool for improving communication and avoiding unnecessary conflict. When people understand how different personality types function, they can interact more effectively and build healthier relationships. Carl Jung's perspective. Carl Jung was one of the first to describe something many people felt but couldn't explain: the complexity of psychological type. To him, the intuitive introvert was one of the most mysterious yet essential profiles for understanding the unconscious. Unlike other types, this individual doesn't just observe the world but seeks to interpret it deeply, connecting elements that go unnoticed by most. According to Jung, intuition isn't just a random gut feeling but a legitimate psychological function. In the case of the intuitive introvert, this function manifests through internal images, symbols, and meanings extracted from the unconscious. This explains why they can easily grasp abstract concepts and foresee trends before they become evident. However, this ability also presents challenges. Often, their perceptions are so abstract that they become difficult to express. The feeling of operating on a different mental wavelength than others can lead to a sense of isolation or misunderstanding. Yet, understanding this function isn't just a matter of curiosity, it's a powerful tool that allows them to turn what seems like a limitation into a great advantage. By recognizing their unique way of processing the world, they can learn to communicate their ideas more clearly and appreciate the value of their distinct perception. The nature of introverted intuition. Introverted intuition is a rare form of perception, often misunderstood. While extroverted intuition seeks new experiences in the external world, introverted intuition operates internally, creating invisible connections between seemingly unrelated pieces of information. The intuitive introvert doesn't need direct stimuli for their mind to work. Their insights emerge spontaneously. They may sit in silence and suddenly have a breakthrough about something they've been trying to solve for days. This process happens because their mind is constantly working in the background, organizing patterns and analyzing unconscious information without them realizing it. This ability can seem mysterious to others. While most people require concrete data to form conclusions, the intuitive introvert picks up on subtle impressions and arrives at answers that seem to come from nowhere. However, since these perceptions don't stem from a linear thought process, they often struggle to explain how they reached a conclusion, which can create confusion in social interactions. Additionally, their mind works strongly with internal images and archetypes, universal concepts that shape human thought. This explains why many intuitive introverts are drawn to philosophy, psychology, and spirituality. They feel that there's a deeper meaning behind everything and seek to understand these connections. The perception process in introverted intuition. The way an intuitive introvert processes information is vastly different from more rational or sensory-based type. While a sensory-oriented individual relies on what they can see and touch, the intuitive introvert perceives patterns and hidden meanings. They may sense that something is off in a conversation even when nothing has been explicitly said. Small details like a pause in speech, a subtle shift in tone, or an evasive glance all combine in their mind, forming a bigger picture. To others, this perception may seem like excessive imagination, but to them, it makes perfect sense. This explains why, upon meeting someone, the intuitive introvert can quickly form an accurate impression of their personality. They don't need multiple interactions to pick up on subtleties and predict how certain situations will unfold. However, translating these perceptions into words is a challenge. Explaining something that appears as a mental image or an abstract feeling can be frustrating. Often, when they try to share their vision, they realize that others can't keep up. What seems obvious to them may sound vague or incomprehensible to others. This communication gap can lead them to withdraw, keeping their perceptions to themselves. However, when they find effective ways to express themselves, their intuition becomes a powerful asset. They can develop strategies to translate their ideas into more accessible language, making them not just someone who deeply understands the world, but also someone capable of sharing that understanding in a clear and meaningful way. The isolation of the intuitive introvert. The intuitive introvert naturally inhabits their own mental world. Their mind is a space for reflection, where they connect ideas and perceive patterns that others don't notice. Unlike those who seek energy in social interaction, they feel most at ease in introspection. However, this preference for the internal world can sometimes lead to isolation. They often feel that few people truly understand their way of thinking. It's not a deliberate choice to withdraw, but rather a gradual distancing that occurs when superficial interactions feel empty. They crave deep conversations where they can explore hidden meanings and discuss abstract ideas. When they don't find this level of exchange, they prefer solitude. The real challenge isn't to abandon introspection but to balance it with authentic connections. Their internal world is rich, but that doesn't mean they should completely shut themselves off from the outside world. Instead of forcing interactions that feel shallow, they can seek environments and circles that appreciate deeper discussions. Expressing themselves through writing, joining groups with similar interests, or finding people who share their way of thinking can help reduce this sense of disconnection without compromising their authenticity. The conflict with reality and the compensatory function. The intuitive introvert has a challenging relationship with the concrete world. While their mind is busy processing invisible patterns, future possibilities, and hidden meanings, reality demands immediate attention. Commitments, deadlines, and everyday responsibilities can feel trivial or even overwhelming to someone whose energy is directed toward the abstract. This practical difficulty often manifests as forgetfulness, disorganization, and mental overload in the face of excessive sensory stimuli. To cope with this, they develop their inferior function, extroverted sensing, which helps them connect to the physical world. However, this adaptation tends to be unstable. They may oscillate between long periods of introspection and impulsive moments where they seek intense sensory experiences, such as extreme sports, uncontrolled eating, or excessive consumption of entertainment, as a form of compensation. This imbalance can lead to anxiety and procrastination. To prevent their intuition from becoming an obstacle to practical life, they can adopt small strategies to help them stay focused on the present. Creating simple routines, setting reminders, and breaking tasks into smaller steps are effective ways to align their abstract perception with the demands of the real world. The underestimation and misunderstanding of the intuitive introvert. Society values what is tangible, fast, and easily explainable. This puts the intuitive introvert in a delicate position, as their way of processing information is deep and non-linear. They see innovative solutions, recognize patterns before they become evident, and anticipate changes that others have yet to notice. However, because they can't always justify their conclusions with concrete data, they may be discredited, underestimated, or even considered too complicated. This misunderstanding can lead to the devaluation of their abilities. In the workplace, their ideas may be ignored in favor of more straightforward solutions. In social circles, they may be seen as eccentric for preferring reflective conversations over superficial interactions. Even in their personal lives, they may feel that few truly recognize the value of their unique way of thinking. However, history is filled with intuitive introverts who were misunderstood in their time: Jung, Tesla, Einstein, and many others. The challenge isn't to be accepted by everyone but to find environments and people who appreciate their distinctive perspective. When they learn to trust their intuition and communicate effectively, they turn their unique vision into a powerful asset. The role of life experience in the intuitive's development. For the intuitive introvert, experience is the best form of learning. Unlike those who absorb knowledge through rules and direct instructions, they need to live through something to fully understand it. Their mind connects information in a deep and abstract way, making simple memorization an ineffective method for their growth. This personality type tends to question ready-made truths and seek their own answers. While many follow teachings without hesitation, they need to test, reflect, and adapt knowledge to their own understanding. This process can make them wiser and more independent, but it may also create the impression that they take longer to make decisions. However, once they grasp something, their vision is broad and detailed, going far beyond what was taught on the surface. Creating an environment that stimulates this kind of learning is essential for their development. Immersive experiences, such as travel, deep conversations, and creative exploration, are more effective than traditional methods. Reading can also be a powerful tool, but only when it involves content that challenges their mind and expands their worldview. The structure of cognitive functions and complementarity. The personality of the intuitive introvert isn't defined solely by their intuition. It results from the interaction of different cognitive functions, each playing a specific role. While introverted intuition is dominant, it never operates in isolation. Auxiliary functions help balance their perception and influence how they think, feel, and act. If their secondary function is extroverted thinking, they will have a more logical and structured approach to organizing and expressing their ideas. If it is introverted feeling, they will make decisions based on internal values and deep emotions. Meanwhile, extroverted sensing can help them better navigate the concrete world, counterbalancing their tendency to get lost in abstractions. The problem arises when these functions aren't well developed. If they rely solely on intuition without strengthening their auxiliary functions, they may become disconnected from reality or struggle with communication. The key is finding balance, strengthening areas that complement their intuition without compromising their essence. The relationship between thought, intuition, and emotion. The mind of the intuitive introvert operates as a dynamic interplay between intuition, thought, and emotion. Their intuition detects hidden patterns, their thinking tries to organize this information, and their emotions influence their reactions and choices. The challenge is that these elements don't always work in harmony. At times, intuition may suggest one path, while rational thought questions its logic, and emotions introduce doubts and impulses. Many suppress their emotions, believing that logical thought and intuition are more reliable. However, ignoring the emotional aspect can lead to frustration or even existential crises. On the other hand, if they are ruled solely by emotions, they may act impulsively without considering the rational or intuitive implications of a situation. The true challenge is to balance these forces, recognizing that each plays an essential role in human experience. Learning to manage this internal dynamic brings countless benefit. Practices such as reflective writing, meditation, and therapy can help them organize their thoughts and deal with their emotions more effectively, making them more stable and confident. The path to psychological integration. The intuitive introvert spends much of their life trying to understand themselves, yet often feels that something is still missing. They may have sharp perception and a brilliant mind, but if they do not integrate all aspects of their personality, they will continue to feel disconnected from the world. Psychological integration occurs when they learn to balance their intuition with their auxiliary functions, becoming more adapted to reality. This does not mean abandoning introspection, but rather using it in a more conscious and functional way. The first step toward this integration is self-awareness. They need to recognize their strengths and challenges without excessive self-criticism. If their intuition is powerful but their communication is weak, they can practice ways to express their ideas more clearly. If they struggle with practical tasks, they can develop simple strategies to maintain organization. Small adjustments made over time create a significant difference, and the key is not to change their essence but to refine it. Another crucial aspect is the connection with the unconscious. Jung emphasized the importance of bringing hidden aspects of the psyche into consciousness, something especially relevant for the intuitive introvert. Techniques such as meditation, reflective writing, and Jungian therapy can help them better understand their internal patterns and use their intuition as an ally rather than a source of isolation. Understanding their own nature is the first step in using it to their advantage, transforming their unique perception into a strength rather than a burden.